Republicans love to scream America first, but the moment American-made food that could save starving children sits rotting in warehouses because of their own bureaucratic chaos, suddenly it's everyone else's fault. And when Gabe Amo calls out the truth, Marco Rubio does what the GOP always does when confronted with their own failures. He attacks, deflects, and melts down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Rubio, do you know what this is?
I'm sorry, my Lasix is not as good
That's
as it
all
used to
right.
be.
I'll explain. This is a ready-to-use therapeutic food, also known as a RUF. It's produced in the United States by Adesia Nutrition in Rhode Island and Manna Nutrition in Georgia from American-grown farm products. A single box that I have right here of this miracle product can save a child from dying of severe acute malnutrition in only 6 to 10 weeks. Now, since January, you have promised over and over again that foreign aid freezes will not include life-saving assistance. RUFs save the lives of children who are starving around the world. Do you agree that this product is life-saving aid?
It can be, yes.
Well, Secretary Rubio, the World Food Program estimates that 8,000 children die from hunger every day. Until last Friday, over 123,000 RUF boxes were purchased for Sudan, but were sitting in Rhode Island in a warehouse because of State Department delays. So my question for you is, are you doing everything you can to keep starving children from dying?
There was no State Department delays to that being deployed. There may have been other delays, but it wasn't State Department.
There were State Department delays. And it is clear that you have not done everything you can do to keep these kids from starving, because there are another 185,000 boxes of RUFs that the U.S. government and taxpayers have already paid for sitting in that same warehouse, all because the State Department doesn't have a plan, doesn't have its stuff together to get this rolling. So I can think of several countries where this aid is desperately needed, where these boxes of RUFs could save hundreds of thousands of children's lives. And these delays have real consequences, not just for starving children, but also jobs at home. I talked to the CEO of Adesia, who said they had to lay off 10% of their team due to the lack of payments from the U.S. government and a lack of clarity in March. So Secretary Rubio, will you commit to making decisions needed to move the remaining 185,000 boxes of RUFs to countries that need them by the end of this week?
Well, I'd be interested to learn what those impediments are.
Well, we've been talking about this for a while. I've sent you letters since January.
But there's no impediment on our end to distributing that.
There are impediments. I'm speaking directly to the
Sudan
source.
is a war zone.
Secretary, I'm reclaiming my time. This exists as a problem, and you have not acted.
That's false.
And maybe it's the case that you have too many jobs, because I know it's the case. It must be a lot to be the National Security Advisor, the National Archivist, or the head of USAID. That's a lot. I understand a lot of footballs. You're a football player. That's a lot of balls to catch. But the issue here is we have children who are dying. So will you commit to continuing to fund the production, transportation, and distribution of these domestically produced life-saving products to save starving children around the world?
They're approved now.
They are not moving. I just told you about 185,000 boxes in Rhode Island. I live there.
And you need to figure out why they're not moving, because it isn't an impediment from us.
Sir, you need to figure out. That's actually your job, sir.
No, it's no impediment from the State Department.
Well, Mr. Secretary, it seems like you will not make a commitment.
Sir,
it seems like you refuse to make a
commitment. We do more of that than anybody in the world, and we're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to do food aid. We're going to do more food aid than any country on the planet times 10.
Well, that's a lot of talk. But I believe
those are numbers.
Seeing is believing, and there is not to be seen.
Those are numbers. Those are facts. We do more foreign aid.
Well, I've got numbers. I've got 185,000 boxes that aren't moving.
So, but the State Department doesn't move boxes.
I'm going to do you a little favor.
We authorize them.
Mr. Secretary, I'm reclaiming my time, sir. I'm going to do you a favor.
To move. Well, you ask questions you don't want anybody answer. I'm telling you, they're allowed to move.
And I have a question for you, and you're compelled to answer. Why don't you take 10 seconds now to turn to your staff and say, let's get this fixed?
My staff knows that this has been fixed.
It hasn't been fixed.
On the State Department
side. Well, then you have not proven that to me. If the people who are affected, both here domestically and around the world, are not receiving this life-saving product.
They are receiving it.
Look, you staked your career in the Senate on supporting humanitarian aid, but now you won't make a commitment, or you're saying things have been done that haven't been done.
Commitment.
You've made a commitment?
We do more food aid than anybody in the world. We're doing more today than anybody in the world.
Secretary, I'm reclaiming my time. You are speaking in generalities. I'm talking about
I'm
specifics.
speaking in specifics. We do more than anybody in the world, and we're doing more than anybody in the world right now at this very moment.
That's hyperbole, sir, because this has been disrupted
does more?
because of your
Who does
freezing of aid.
Who does more food aid than the United States?
Sir, why are you asking me questions? My job is to ask you questions.
Well, you're the one that's claiming that
Secretary,
we're not.
I'm reclaiming my time. Secretary, I'm reclaiming my client. This is why I'm introducing the Rubio Act. So you focus on the one job that the Senate gave you to serve as our Secretary of State because you are clearly distracted, okay? After the last few months, I understand why President Trump has such colorful nicknames for you. You're obedient. You're following the rules. You will do anything the president tells you to do without regard for the law, the Constitution, America's security, or standing as a leader in the world. Unlike you, I do not fear crossing Donald Trump. I refuse to give up on these children. I will be calling you once a week until you take action to fund RUF and actually prove that you're doing this job to make sure you know how many children have died on your watch. Will you pick up my call?
No children are dying on our watch.
Will you pick up my call, sir?
Pick up your call?
When I call you to check in on your progress.
Our progress is already being made. We already do more than anybody in the world.
recognized.
No, but he's made some strong accusations here. We're doing more than anybody in the world. That food is being distributed now, and he knows that.
Very good.
What you just watched is a perfect snapshot of Republican politics in 2025. Loud, chaotic, blaming everybody else, and refusing to take responsibility even when the evidence is stacked so high it's practically falling off the table. Marco Rubio walks into this exchange thinking he can bully his way through a crisis he helped create. But Gabe Amo doesn't let him hide behind slogans, statistics, or theatrics. He drags the conversation back to the one thing the GOP never wants to talk about: the real-world consequences of their policy failures. Amo doesn't open with abstractions. He starts with the product itself, ready-to-use therapeutic food, RUTF, a literal miracle invention that can pull a starving child back from the edge of death in just weeks. It's made in America, paid for by American taxpayers, and urgently needed in countries where famine is killing thousands of children every single day. These aren't hypothetical numbers. These are small, malnourished bodies that can either be saved or allowed to die. And instead of moving the aid, the U.S. government, led by Republicans who pretend to care about children, has let hundreds of thousands of life-saving boxes sit in warehouses collecting dust. And what does Rubio do when confronted with this? He immediately denies. He deflects. He tries to pretend the delays don't exist. This is classic GOP strategy. When faced with a humanitarian disaster caused by their own chaos, they simply claim the problem isn't real. Rubio's entire defense is a shrug disguised as certainty. We do more food aid than anybody. As if bragging about volume means anything when shipments aren't moving and starving kids aren't eating. Amo refuses to let him escape that reality. He brings receipts. He brings numbers. He brings the voices of CEOs, workers, and humanitarian groups. He exposes that the freeze delayed aid, stalled shipments, damaged U.S. credibility, and even cost American jobs at the manufacturing plant. The GOP loves to preach support American workers, but when those workers lose their paychecks because of Republican dysfunction, suddenly it's someone else's problem. And when Rubio runs out of excuses, he does what Republicans always do when the facts corner them. He lashes out, he interrupts, talks over the witness, tries to force himself into the role of victim, and even throws in cheap shots about too many jobs and colorful nicknames. This is the party that claims to be serious about governance. This is the party that claims humanitarian leadership. But the moment accountability shows up, they crumble into personal attacks and empty bluster. Amo doesn't let him escape. He stays locked in. Every time Rubio tries to wander into generalities, we do the most aid, Amo yanks him back to the specifics sitting in that Rhode Island warehouse. The Republicans want applause for bragging about the size of America's aid budget while ignoring the very real fact that children were dying while those boxes sat untouched. This hearing is bigger than two politicians arguing. It reveals the core contradiction of the modern GOP, a party that wraps itself in the language of morality while making decisions that have devastating moral consequences. They posture about protecting children when it's politically convenient, but when American-made food could literally save tens of thousands of starving children around the globe, their bureaucracy freezes, their priorities shift, and their compassion evaporates. Rubio's meltdown isn't just frustration, it's exposure. He's being forced to answer for a system that his own party broke, and he can't defend it. So he attacks, he interrupts, he tries to flip the script, but the facts refuse to bend for him. And that's exactly why this moment matters. Because when politicians start treating global starvation as a partisan chess move, someone has to drag the conversation back to reality. Amo does that. He forces Rubio to confront the human cost of his decisions. Not just the headlines, not just the talking points, but the children who won't live long enough to hear any of the excuses. If you want a political system that actually values human life more than rhetoric, then this is why holding power accountable matters. And this is why you stay locked in with the left lens, because we don't let the spin hide the suffering. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you want more analysis that cuts through the noise and exposes the truth behind the politics. The Left Lens is here to hold the powerful accountable every single time.